Hi, third graders. Greetings to you from my living room. I miss you guys. I hope you're all doing okay. Hopefully you got to go outside a little bit. The past few days have been sunny and nice, so I hope you took advantage of that. Anyway, missing our time together in the library. I'm going to be posting stuff on Google Classroom for you guys, but I also wanted to read aloud a chapter book. And I decided to read to you guys On the Banks of Plum Creek. So this is actually the third book in the Little House on the Prairie series. The first one is Little House in the Big Woods, where they first move to Wisconsin. And then the second one is Little House on the Prairie, when they move out of the woods and onto the prairie. And this is the third book. And I chose to read the third one partially because I think some of you guys may have read those ones before. And also, I really like this story a lot. It's a fun one, and I like the setting, as you guys will see. And you may also remember a bunch of these picture books I read you when you were young. So, the Little House books are true stories. They are historical fiction. They're based on the lives of this family. And the first book was published in 1932, and it says in the very opening line that the story took place about 60 years earlier. So what the actual time and place of these books are in the 1800s. And these are about pioneers, people who first went west and had to really use their survival skills. So anyway, even though the stories always have covers and, you know, you may look at these covers with these girls and their dolls and things like that, they really encounter a lot of adventure and excitement because they're dealing with surviving, you know, basically out in the wild. So here's the cover of this book. And as you can tell, they build their house like right in the bank of a creek. So in the picture, she's walking basically on her roof. Okay, so I'm going to read you guys, you know, I'll be reading a chapter at a time. And if you want to follow along, if you have the book at home, you can. And you can listen on your own, however you want to do it. But I'll read a little bit and post them. We might do some Zoom classrooms, I'm not sure. And I'll be reading you guys other books too. And you don't have to listen to this. This is just something that you may want to do. And it's a great story. It's a classic story. And this whole series is part of what we would call cultural literacy. In our culture, there are certain books that everybody should have read and be aware of and know about. And people make reference to them all the time. And this whole series is absolutely part of our cultural history. So it's an important classic piece of literature. So I'm going to read you guys chapter 1 of the third book, which is called On the Banks of Plum Creek. Chapter 1, The Door in the Ground. The dim wagon track went no further on the prairie, and Pa stopped the horses. When the wagon wheel stopped turning, Jack dropped down in the shade between them. His belly sank on the grass and his front legs stretched out. His nose fitted in the furry hollow. All of him rested, except his ears. All day, for many, many days, Jack had been trotting under the wagon. He had trotted all the way from the little log house in Indian Territory, across Kansas, across Missouri, across Iowa, and all a long way into Minnesota. He had learned to take his rest whenever the wagon stopped. In the wagon, Laura jumped down and so did Mary. Their legs were tired of not moving. "This must be the place," Pa said. "It's half a mile up the creek from Nelson's. We've come a good half mile, and there's the creek." Laura could not see a creek. She saw a grassy bank, and below it a line of willow treetops waving in the gentle wind. Everywhere else, the prairie grasses were rippling far away to the sky's straight edge. "Seems to be some kind of stable over there," said Pa, looking around the edge of the canvas wagon cover. "But where's the house?" Laura jumped inside her skin. A man was standing beside the horses. No one had been in sight anywhere, but suddenly that man was there. His hair was pale yellow, his face was as red as an Indian's, and his eyes were so pale that they looked like a mistake. Jack growled. "Grrr." "Be still, Jack," said Pa, and he asked the man, "Are you Mr. Hanson?" "Yeah," the man said. Pa spoke slowly and loudly. "I heard you want to go west. You trade your place?" The man looked slowly at the wagon. He looked at the Mustangs, Pet and Patty. After a while, he said again, "Yeah." Pa got out of the wagon and Ma said, "You can climb out and run around, girls. I know you're tired of sitting still." Jack got up when Laura climbed down the wagon wheel, but he had to stay under the wagon until Pa said he might go. He looked out at Laura while she ran along a little path that was there. The path went across short, sunny grass to the edge of a bank. Down below it was the creek, rippling and glistening in the sunshine. The willow trees grew up beyond the creek. Over the edge of the bank, the path turned and went slanting down, close against the grassy bank that rose up like a wall. Laura went in cautiously. The bank rose up beside her till she could not see the wagon. There was only the high sky above her, and down below was the water, and it was talking to itself. Laura went a step further, no more than one step. The path stopped at a wider, flat place where it turned and dropped down to the creek in stair steps. Then Laura saw the door. The door stood straight in the grassy bank where the path turned. It was like a house door, but whatever was behind it was under the ground, and the door was shut. In front of it lay two big dogs with ugly faces. They saw Laura and slowly rose up. Laura ran very fast up the path to the safe wagon. Mary was standing there, and Laura whispered to her, "There's a door in the ground and two big dogs." She looked behind her. The two big dogs were coming. Jack's deep growl rolled from under the wagon. "Rrrr," and he showed his fierce teeth. "Those your dogs?" Pa asked Mr. Hanson. Mr. Hanson turned and spoke in words that Laura could not understand. But the dogs understood. One behind the other, they slunk over the edge of the bank, down and out of sight. Pa and Mr. Hanson walked slowly away toward the stable. The stable was small, and it was not made of logs. Grass grew on its walls, and its roof was covered with growing grasses, blowing in the wind. Laura and Mary stayed near the wagon where Jack was. They looked at the prairie grasses swaying and bending, and the yellow flowers nodding. Birds rose and flew and sank into the grasses. The sky curved very high, and its rim came neatly down to the faraway edge of the round earth. When Pa and Mr. Hanson came back, they heard Pa say, "All right, Hanson, we'll go to town tomorrow and fix up the papers. Tonight we'll camp here." Yeah, Mr. Hanson agreed. Pa boosted Mary and Laura into the wagon and drove on the prairie. He told Ma that he had traded Pet and Patty for Mr. Hanson's land. He had traded Bunny, the mule colt, and the wagon cover for Mr. Hanson's crops and his oxen. He unhitched Pet and Patty and led them to the creek to drink. He put them in their picket lines and helped Ma make camp for the night. Laura was quiet. She did not want to play, and she was not hungry when they all sat eating supper by the campfire. "That last night out," said Pa. "That's the last night out," said Pa. "Tomorrow we'll be settled again. The house is in the creek bank, Caroline." "Oh, Charles," said Ma, "a dugout? We've never had to live in a dugout yet." "I think you'll find it very clean," Pa told her. "Norwegians are clean people. It will be snug for winter, and it's not that far away." "Yes, it will be nice to be settled before snow starts," Ma agreed. "It's only till harvest, the first wheat crop," Pa said. "Then you'll have a fine house, and I'll have horses and maybe even a buggy. This is a great wheat country, Caroline. Rich, level land, with not a tree or a rock to contend with. I can't make out why Hanson sowed such a small field. It must have been a dry season, or Hanson's no farmer. His wheat is so thin and light." By the firelight, Pet and Patty and Bunny were eating grass. They bit it off with sharp crunches, and they stood chewing it and looking through the dark at the low shining stars. They switched their tails peacefully. They did not know that they had been traded. Laura was a big girl, 7 years old. She was too big to cry, but she could not help asking, "Pa, did you have to give Pet and Patty? Did you, Pa?" Pa's arms drew her close in a cuddly hug. "Well, little half-pint," Pa said, "Pet and Patty like to travel. They are little Indian ponies, Laura, and plowing is too hard of work for them. They will be much happier traveling out west. You wouldn't want to keep them here, breaking their hearts on a plow. Pet and Patty will go on traveling with those big ox, and with those big oxen, I can break up the great big field and have it ready for wheat next spring." "A good crop of wheat will bring us more money than we've ever had, Laura," Ma added. And Pa said, "Then we'll have horses and new dresses and everything you'll ever want." Laura did not say anything. She felt better with Pa's arm around her, but she did not want anything except to keep Pet and Patty and Bunny, the long-eared colt. And that was chapter 1. And again, I'm going to show you this picture. This is what they're talking about when they're saying they're going to live underground. So they built their house right into the creek bank. That was chapter 1. That was pretty short. So I'm going to go on and read chapter 2, but I'll close this out and start a new one in case you don't have more time to listen right now. Okay, see you in a minute, possibly.